Chapter 19. Gabriel's jaw worked as he stood silent, the anger visible in the tight set of his shoulders. Then, from the back of the room, Silas spoke, his tone quiet, but carrying more weight than anyone else. If Charles knew what he shouldn't, how do you know Vero does? Every head turned. Silas didn't move, didn't blink. He just continued, calm and deliberate. You test Charles with a false location. Good. But you've been treating Vero like a safer card. If either of them is compromised, you need to know before they both burn you at once. Set another trap, opposite direction, different location, different story. Feed it to Vero the same way. If Hades shows there too, then you'll know it's not just Charles. A chill slid down my spine. The logic was simple, brutal, hard to argue. Sierra leaned back in her chair, her mouth curving faintly. He's right. Don't just test one leash if you're still wearing two. Rin gave a single nod. Two traps, two answers. That will show you who's lying. Gabriel's eyes shifted to me, unreadable but heavy with the same question. I exhaled slowly. Then we do both. Charles gets Greystone. Vero gets somewhere else, far enough to be safe, close enough for us to monitor. If either location gets touched, we'll know exactly where the rod is. Silas inclined his head once, then fell silent again, as if he'd never spoken. Lyra opened the second line. The connection was slower this time, the signal jumping twice before Vero's face appeared. She looked different from Charles, less polished, more strained, but her voice was steady. Thessa, she said, I wasn't expecting you. What's wrong? Nothing immediate, I answered, keeping my tone casual. Just wanted to check in. Make sure you weren't hearing anything from Hades we should know about. Her brow furrowed. Not much more than what I already told you before. They've been moving fast, fragmenting their cells. It's harder to keep track of their projects, but they're focused on aggression, not building. That tracked with what the shifters had told us. I leaned back, deliberately casual. We've had to make adjustments. Things got tight, so Gabriel's been handling part of the field work while I focused on keeping the group steady. Her expression didn't shift, just confusion. Gabriel. I tilted my head. Falcon hybrid, with his sister Abigail and one of the nurses, Dalia. Vero's face stayed blank, then softened with genuine surprise. Icarus never dispatched anyone else to you, not that I was told. Are you saying you have more people with you than the original flock? Behind me, Lyra shot a quick glance in my direction, sharp but satisfied. This was the moment we'd been waiting for. I nodded slowly. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Vero didn't mask her confusion. Then they didn't come from me. If Charles sent them, he didn't log it. And if they're with you now, you need to be careful. Very careful. That doesn't mean they aren't on your side. But if Icarus didn't clear them, then someone else is pulling strings. Vero's words still hung between us. Be careful. Her tone hadn't been the rehearsed calm of Charles. It had been genuine, too raw to fake. I leaned closer to the screen. We are being careful, more careful than we've ever been, and we're safe. Safer than you think. Her brow furrowed. Safe, how can you be sure? I hesitated for a moment, then chose the truth. Because we already survived something that should have killed us. 2 weeks ago, the site we'd been using for a meeting and our old safe house were both hit. Bombed. Same day, same hour. Vero's eyes widened, her face draining of color. What? No one told me. There was no report of a strike on any of your known locations. That's because they weren't meant to be our strikes, I said quietly. If we'd stayed, it wouldn't just be us you'd be missing. Every shifter in the area would have been wiped out. It wasn't about us alone. It was about clearing the board. For a moment, she just stared, stunned. Then she shook her head slowly, more to herself than to me. That wasn't sanctioned. I would have known. If Icarus had authorized something like that. She trailed off, voice breaking slightly before pulling it back under control. No, someone else orchestrated it. Hades maybe, but... Her gaze met mine, sharper now. You were right not to tell Charles everything. If he knew, he didn't stop it. Her words sat heavy in my chest, confirmation of what I already feared. Which is why, I said firmly, we're keeping our circle tight. No one outside the flock, no matter how high their clearance. Not until we know who's safe and who is. Vero gave a small nod. Then you're right to keep me at arm's length too. But Thessa, thank you for telling me. I'll see what I can find out about the bombing, but... Her voice dropped lower. Be careful. If Charles knew and didn't tell you, it means you're being handled. And if he didn't know, it means someone above both of us is pulling strings we can't see. The line crackled faintly before her voice steadied again. Stay alive, all of you. The screen went dark. The room was still. Then Lyra whispered. She didn't know, she wasn't lying. Gabriel folded his arms, his eyes narrowing. Which means either Charles withheld it, or he wasn't the only one. Zeph muttered, so we're not just looking at one snake in the grass. And I stood there, my chest tight, the realization burning hotter by the second. This wasn't just about Charles anymore. The room hadn't settled since Vero's call ended. Everyone was tense, still buzzing with the realization that Charles had known too much while she hadn't known enough. I turned to Gabriel, unable to hold the question back any longer. You told me once your job was to protect us, to keep us from Hades, to keep us from each other. But where exactly did those orders come from? His gaze met mine, steady but weighted. He didn't look away. Charles, he said. He told me they came from Vero. My stomach twisted. Told you, so you never heard it from her directly. Gabriel shook his head once. No, everything I got was filtered through him. He said she was the one pushing it, but his jaw tightened. After tonight, I'm not so sure. The room went stiller, if that was even possible. And Abigail, Dahlia, I pressed. Why are they here? His eyes flicked toward his sister, then back to me. Because Charles told me I'd need more than just myself if you decided to kill me. He said I could choose 2 others I trusted, so I did. Abigail's voice broke in from behind him, quiet but sharp. We were following Gabe, not Charles, not Icarus, Gabe. Dahlia crossed her arms, her expression tight. I didn't know that was why, not until now, but it doesn't matter. I was going to follow him either way. The weight of Gabriel's words sat heavy in my chest. Charles had sent him as a leash. Vero hadn't even known he existed. And now, for the first time, I couldn't tell if Gabriel was still carrying those orders, or if he'd already thrown them away. The silence hit harder than shouting. Ares broke it, his voice rough with anger. So you've been running Charles' leash this whole time, thinking it was hers. Gabriel's tone edged sharp, defensive. I followed what I was told because I believed it would keep you alive. That was my job. Lyra's voice cut through, cold and sharp. No, your job was to keep us controlled. You just didn't realize it. The shifters murmured low, uneasy, the weight of distrust spreading across the room. Abigail's voice trembled as she pushed forward. We followed him, not Charles. Gabe told us this was about keeping you safe. That's all I knew. Dahlia crossed her arms tightly, her expression dark. Same. I thought we were here to protect you. But if it was Charles pulling the strings... She stopped short, biting the words back, but the damage was already done. My chest tightened, the weight of it pressing down like a stone. Charles had planted Gabriel with us under false pretenses. Vero hadn't known, and now the truth was out in front of everyone. The flock, the shifters, Gabe's men, they were all watching me, waiting for me to decide if Gabriel was still one of us, or if he was just Charles, leash wrapped in a different skin. The murmurs in the room were starting to shift into something sharper, distrust rippling from face to face. I could feel the weight of it pressing down on Gabriel, pressing down on all of us. I lifted my hand, and the room quieted. My voice came out firm, steady. Enough. Every eye turned to me. Yes, Charles lied. Yes, Gabe was sent under false pretenses. But look at the facts. He's been with us long enough now that if he was feeding anything back to them, we'd already be dead. We'd already be captured. We'd already be ash. I let that hang in the air before continuing. He hasn't passed a word to Charles, not one scrap of information. If he had, it would have shown. And when we've needed him most, when we've been falling apart, he stood with us, not against us. Zeph shifted, his frown easing just slightly. Ares didn't look convinced, but he didn't push back either. I met the gaze of the wolves, the panthers, Gabe's men. We are not turning on each other because Charles set us up to. That's what he wanted. That's how Hades wins, when we eat ourselves alive from the inside. My eyes finally landed on Gabriel. His jaw was still tight, his posture stiff, but there was something in his eyes, relief, maybe, that softened when I didn't look away. "He's with us now," I said, my voice like steel. "And until he gives me a reason to believe otherwise, that's where he stays." The silence that followed wasn't entirely comfortable, but it wasn't fractured either. It held. For now, it was enough. The room had just begun to settle after I'd defended Gabriel, the silence heavy but holding. That's when Demon's voice cut through it, quiet, rough, but carrying like a crack of thunder. "They already know." Every head turned. Demon had been sitting in the corner, silent since his confession days ago, his shoulders hunched like he wanted to disappear. Now, his eyes were distant, glassy, unfocused, the way they always got when the visions hit. "What do you mean?" I asked carefully. His lips parted, his words halting but urgent. "The place you gave Charles, the one you told him we moved on to, I saw it. Fire, rubble, the walls collapsing. Hades was already there. They knew before the words even left your mouth." A ripple of shock tore through the room. Zeph swore under his breath. "Shit, if that's true." "It is," Demon said, sharper now, his gaze snapping up to meet mine. His voice shook, but not with doubt, with certainty. "They were waiting for it, like they'd been fed the answer ahead of time. Charles or someone around him, they already gave it away." Rin muttered low, anger simmering. "So the trap's already sprung." Sierra's jaw clenched, and not on them, on us. Gabriel's eyes went hard, his fists curling at his sides. If Hades is there already, then Charles isn't just compromised, he's an active pipeline, feeding them before the words are even out of your mouth. The wolves and panthers shifted, restless, their instincts responding to the tension like predators on edge. Even Gabriel's men went still, waiting for orders. I felt my chest tighten, the full weight of it pressing in. We hadn't just confirmed Charles couldn't be trusted. We confirmed he was dangerous. The training yard outside rang with grunts and impacts, steel against stone, wings slicing air as the flocks drilled harder than ever. Inside, the air was quieter, but heavier. Me, Gabriel, Rin, and Sierra gathered once again around the map table. "We can't keep him in play," Rin said flatly, arms crossed. "Charles isn't just a risk anymore. He's feeding them live. That makes him an enemy." "Agreed," Sierra added, her voice sharp, clinical. "But enemies don't always have to be killed in the field. Sometimes they can be turned into bait." Gabriel leaned forward, his jaw set. "I can make that happen." All of us looked at him. He went on, measured but fierce. "Charles thinks I'm still on his leash. If I reach out, say I want to meet privately, away from the flock, he'll take it. He'll think it's his chance to pull me closer, maybe even pry me away from you." I felt the weight of it immediately. "And while you're meeting, we box him in." Gabriel nodded. "A layered trap, sniper cover from Silas, recon from Kale and Cade to monitor any tails. Rourke and Torin anchor the perimeter. Naira and Zeph cut off any chance of escape. And if Charles brought backup, Sierra's panthers collapse on them before they even know what's happening." Rin gave a low grunt of approval. "And if he doesn't bring backup?" "Then he's alone," Gabriel said simply. "And we finish this." Sierra tilted her head, her smile sharp. "It's elegant. He thinks he's pulling one of your pieces off the board, but really, he's walking straight into checkmate." I leaned both hands on the table, steadying myself before I spoke. "We don't just kill him. We pull every scrap of information from him first. Contacts, comms, codes, anything that tells us how deep his pipeline runs. Once we have that, then we end it." Gabriel's eyes flicked to me. For a heartbeat, it was just the two of us across the table. "I'll make the call when you give the word." And in that moment, I knew. We weren't just hunting Charles. We were setting the trap that would decide whether we could ever trust another word from Icarus again. The room was silent except for the faint hum of Lyra's equipment. Everyone was gathered, but no one spoke, eyes on Gabriel as he stood over the console. He hesitated only for a second before pressing the encrypted line. It rang once, twice. Charles' face appeared, calm as ever. "Gabriel," he said almost pleasantly. "This is unexpected. You rarely reach out." Gabriel's jaw worked, but his voice came smooth, measured. "Because I usually don't need to, but things have changed. I need to speak with you. Alone." Charles' brows lifted slightly, though the smile on his face never wavered. "Alone? That doesn't sound like your usual attachment to the flock." Gabriel leaned in, his tone lowering, every word deliberate. "That's exactly the problem. They don't trust me. Not anymore. You told me Vero was the one who issued the orders. She had no idea I even existed." For the first time, the mask slipped. Charles' smile faltered, just a flicker. "And you told her." "I didn't have a choice," Gabriel said. His voice carried a perfect mix of frustration and defeat, real enough that even I had to remind myself it was part of the plan. "Now everything I say, every move I make, it's under a microscope. I need to know where I actually stand. I need to know if you're still backing me." Charles leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. He studied Gabriel for a long, uncomfortable silence. "And what is it you're asking, Gabriel?" "A meeting," Gabriel said simply. "No flock, no distractions, just you and me, so I can get the truth before I decide where my loyalties lie." For a moment, Charles didn't respond. His eyes flicked, calculating. Then the smile returned, slight, sharp, predatory. "You've grown bolder," he said. "Very well, send me the coordinates, privately, and Gabriel—" His voice dropped, colder. "Don't make me regret trusting you." The line cut. The silence in the room broke only when Silas muttered, "He'll come. He thinks you're wavering." Rin's lips curled into a sharp smile. "Then we spring the jaws shut." Sierra crossed her arms, satisfied. Checkmate in motion. I looked at Gabriel, his shoulders tense, jaw tight. But when his eyes met mine, there was no wavering in them. Now it was just a matter of waiting for Charles to step into the snare. The safe house map was spread across the table again, pins and markers forming a web of movement. Everyone was gathered this time. My flock, Gabriel's, the wolves, the panthers. The room buzzed with sharp, focused energy. I laid my hand flat on the table. "Charles thinks Gabe coming alone. That means we need to make sure every angle is covered without tipping our hand. No mistakes." Gabriel nodded, then started outlining the structure of the ambush. Kale and Cade, shadow reconnaissance, moving well beyond the meeting site to track any approach. If Charles brought a team, they'd be the first to see them. Naira and Zeph, infiltration and counterinfiltration. If anyone tried sneaking into the perimeter, they'd cut the line before it ever reached the core. "Kale and Cade will sweep first," Gabriel said, his voice even. "Naira and Zeph seal the net. No one gets through without us knowing." Torin and Rurk, anchors at the choke points, silent but unmovable. Dax and Voss, handling contingencies, traps, diversions, controlled charges if the site needed to collapse fast. Rin gave a short nod. "If he brings backup, it won't reach you. Torin will hold, and Dax will bring down whatever cover they try to use." Silas and Veyer, eyes in the sky and rifles trained. Silas had the trigger. Veyer caught every movement, every whisper. "Sniper cover holds no matter what," Sierra said. "If Charles twitches wrong, Silas will have him sighted." Gabriel and Charles. The bait meeting at the center, Gabriel playing the role of the disillusioned agent. Thessa, hovering close, voice control in reserve to keep the entire field calm if the trap snapped too hard. Rin and Sierra, command oversight, adjusting the net depending on how Charles moved, giving orders directly to their people. I looked around the room. Every role here is vital. No freelancing, no improvisation. We don't get a second chance at this. Charles walks into that meeting thinking he's in control, and he never walks back out. The leaders, Gabriel, Rin, Sierra, and I, stood at the center while the others looked on. Sierra's eyes gleamed. Elegant and brutal, just how it should be. Rin gave a single approving grunt. He won't even know the jaws have closed until it's too late. Gabriel looked at me last, His expression was unreadable, but his words were steady. When he goes down, it'll be because you called it, not me. He was sent here to control you. Now you decide how he ends. I nodded once, then it set.